Thank you for tuning in to today's Back to the City. Today I'm joined by JOUR, who just put out an excellent new record, Chiaroscuro.
Yes.
Yeah. Chiaroscuro, as it highlights inside the CD, which you should get when you go and see JOUR at the Phipps in Hudson on December 15th at the holiday program show. JOUR will be playing. So what stage in the process of writing these songs did it strike you that Chiaroscuro was the thread or the main theme?
That's a good question. It was literally the last thing to come. I spent, a long time writing the record, and then took a break from the music once it was created to spend a long time creating and developing the visual aspect. And so what I found is, as I was developing all of the aesthetics for the record and for JOUR as a brand, I continued to be drawn to things that were these high contrast photos and things, and I drew from that inspiration to create kind of a visual palette. And then afterward, I looked back at the music and realized that these high contrasts and things that I was being drawn to visually were in the music too.
Yeah,
and I wasn't, it was subconscious though. I wasn't setting out to necessarily do that. I was just like, what am I drawn to visually? What do I want to create to represent, JOUR as a brand and this music? And then kind of retroactively looking back and saying like, wow, these were so similar in essence, and I didn't even realize it. So that I was kind of finding expression visually and musically in the same kind of themes. And so...
And the idea of contrast.
Yeah, and the idea of contrast. And I had kind of realized that there were all these paradoxes in the music along the journey, and had written like a brief bio that had been put out that it said, it's light versus dark, it's minimum versus complexity, and obscurity versus clarity, and analog versus digital, like all of these things kind of coexisted in the music. And so it was after everything was done that I was talking to a friend, and I was like, I just don't know what to name this record. I was like, I just don't know what it is that ties it all together. There's not like one set of lyrics that jumps out to me more than another. Or like one word, and I had toyed with a lot of things. I really had. And then I was just, sitting down talking to my friend Michael Ferrier from the band Fathom Lane, and he's like, have you ever heard of the term chiaroscuro? And I was like, no, what is that? And he's like, well, it's the use of, shading. It's like this light and dark kind of contrast. It's an art term. And I was like, I need to look it up. And I immediately looked it up, and I was like, this is it. Like, this is it. It ties it all together. It's so perfect. It's like, it's in the imagery. It's in the music. It's everywhere. It's like fingerprints are all over this work, and I really saw it as a complete work, not just as music, but I worked so hard to create a visual design and an aesthetic that was cohesive so that everything that I put out would stand alone as its own art. I didn't want to just take pictures because I was in a band and I needed promo pictures. I was like, I want to make photos that even if they never have music attached to them, that people would see them as artistic photos. And so I tied all that together, and I was like, this is it. Yeah, and I was like, I know it's going to be hard to pronounce, and I know people are going to be confused by it, but I was like, it's just I was like, but it's so true to the heart of of JOUR and of this record, and I was like, I can't turn back from this. This is the perfect word.